Women Innovators. Interviews with women with big messages and big missions, sharing their stories to inspire you to live your passion and step up to make the world a better place. Here's your host, Tammy Patzer.
Hi, everyone. This is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited because today I have the mind magician, Suzy Prudden, in the house. And many people, they go, Suzy Prudden. Why is that name so familiar? And the reason it's so familiar is because Suzy was actually one of the big pioneers in the mind, body, or body-mind field, and she has been around for just a little while, and she's known as a success coach, and she was actually on the New York Times prize-winning book list before the internet. So if you know anything about New York Times bestseller status, that's a pretty darn big deal.
That's a big deal.
A lot of books to be on the New York Times bestseller list. And she's also a prize-winning international speaker. She's been a workshop and seminar leader, and she's a master hypnotist, fitness expert, success coach. I could just go on and on and on. And she's also been a TV host, and today she is a publisher, and that's the focus of today's talk, is really about publishing. But before we get to that, I want to just also say that Suzy Prudden has earned Lifetime Achievement Awards, and that she was a guest on Oprah, The Today Show, Good Morning America, and she has been on more than 1,000 radio, TV, and podcasts. I mean, there are not very many people who have this, what I would call the claim to fame, like Suzy Prudden does. And the beauty of it is that today, Suzy is taking all of her expertise and she's helping other people just like you and me. And so that's why I'm really excited that you're here today, Suzy. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to share what I know. You know, as you're listing all the things that I've done, and I don't remember what exactly you said, but I'm thinking to myself, well, that's because I'm old. I mean, I've been around for a long time. I started my first company in New York City in 1965 as a fitness expert, and now it's already that's 2020, and I'm 76 years old, and I've had a lot of careers. And people think, well, isn't that too many careers? You can never have too many careers. It's just, okay, what do I want to do now? What do I want to do now? That's the question I always ask. What do I want to do now? And so now I'm publishing and taking all of my experiences of the past 52 years of being in business with different businesses and helping my authors become successful in their own right, doing what's right for them.
I think that's really huge because number one, you're absolutely right. It isn't about age. It's not about how many careers should you have, and it's about living your best life, and that's exactly what you're doing. And the beauty of what you're doing today is you're working with your sister, right?
Yep.
So together you've created this publishing empire, and it started out, I don't know exactly how it started, but it
was an accident. We didn't mean to do this.
The itty bitty books are some of them. And then I just heard a rumor that you're actually expanding your publishing to include legacy books and memoir books and just a bunch of different things so that you can help these entrepreneurial authors, because today you don't have to have an agent like you did when you first started out back in the day. It was a whole different time. But what I love, Susie, is the fact that you're bringing all of these years of your expertise into 2020 with a very clear vision. So I want you to just kind of share, first of all, why did you decide to go into publishing?
I was tired of coaching. Quite honestly, I was tired of coaching. And I had another friend who had her own business. We kept bumping into each other at conferences and kept saying, I really don't want to do this anymore. I really don't want to do this anymore. We both would whine together. I don't want to do this anymore. And then she died. And I went, wrong affirmation. It's not that I want, so I said, I have to change my affirmation or I'm going to follow her down that path and I'm not ready. So this was in 2014, and I said to God, and I talk to God all the time, God, I want something bigger. I want to reach more people. I want to help more people. I want to make a bigger difference. Right now, I'm coaching, I do seminars, but I want to reach the world. And over the holidays, my sister came to visit me, and we had done a book called Suzy Prudden's Ittybitty Weight Loss Book, because I had been in the weight loss industry for a while with hypnosis. And I asked, it didn't sell. We didn't know what we were doing. This was 2006. We didn't know anything. And it had ugly cover, and it didn't sell. We bought, at that time, you had to buy 2,000 copies. We bought the 2,000 copies. I think I have 1,800 left in my garage. And so she changed the cover, and she showed me the cover. And what was interesting was she took my name off the cover. It didn't say Suzy Prudden's Ittybitty. It said, you're amazing, Ittybitty. And my ego, my name's been on everything since 65. And I looked at it, and I'm staring at the book. And I asked her, you don't want my name on the cover? She said, I don't care. And as I'm looking at it, I said, this is actually $1 million business. And we don't have to write all the books because we've written a lot of books. And we can have other people write the books. We were in business literally 4 days later. We had our first signed author 2 weeks later. We had our first book published 6 weeks later. And an itty-bitty book, here's the one that was the Ittybitty weight loss book. It's a tiny book. It's only 30 pages. But it automatically positions the author as an expert, and they can use this book as a marketing tool. It's not a business card. And there's a very huge distinction between a business card and a business builder. This is a business builder. With this book that we created the publishing company around, people have made hundreds of thousands of dollars, not selling books, but growing their businesses. So it really happened to me as a fluke. I wasn't going to be a publisher. I was a presenter. I was a speaker. I was a big deal. And now I'm a publisher. It's different.
I think that you really came up with a really good point, because you often hear people say, oh, your book is like your business card. And you just said exactly the fine line. You said, no, your book is a business builder.
Yeah.
And people can make hundreds of thousands. And some people have taken their book and turned it into $1 million businesses, just like you with your books. And I go back to that ego where you said, my sister took my name off the front of the book, but that actually made it into something that all of a sudden it went from Suzy Prudden's weight loss book to your amazing itty-bitty book about XYZ, and it opened up the door for all of these people to be attracted to you. How amazing is that? That is just phenomenal.
It was very freeing. It was very freeing. And the ego can be very fragile and get very upset by stuff like that. But for me, it was freeing. And, I know who I am. I know what I've done. People still ask me, are you that Suzy Prudden from the time I was a fitness expert? And that goes back to the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Are you that Suzy Prudden? Yeah, I'm that Suzy Prudden, and now I'm a publisher. And it's fun. It's fun. to see what happens for people. I mean, this gentleman here, he's working on his 6th Ittybitty book.
Little Black Book of Sales. That's a great title. Ittybitty Little Black Book of Sales. That is a title.
Yeah, and he's a salesperson. He works in the automotive industry. He's grown his business from $100,000 a year to $750,000 a year using this book and the others that he's written to market himself. The distinction between a business card and a business builder is huge. When people come up to me and say, here's my business card, I don't want it. First of all, I can't figure out who gave it to me. Then I have to figure out where they're located, and if I really want to, and I'm looking at the book, really want to talk to them. And it usually ends up in my Goodwill basket. And I ask people, please don't give me your book. If I want your book, I'll buy it. Please don't give it to me. And I find this is personal, an imposition when someone gives me a book, because they are expecting me to read it. And I don't want that expectation.
So is that why the books are so itty bitty? Because what is an itty bitty book comprised of typically?
Thank you for that question. Okay, so people are inundated with information. Inundated. When the Dummies books came out in the 80s, they were really great. But they're 350 pages that you have to read with a yellow highlighter. Itty-bitty books are the yellow highlights. Each book has 15 chapters. Each chapter is 2 pages. Page 1 of each chapter is written in numbered sentences and numbered sentences and paragraphs. That's page 1. You'll see it's a paragraph and numbered sentences. And then page 2 is written in bullet points. And the bullet points usually send the reader to the website of the author where that they can do their YouTube channel. They have webinars, they have articles, they have their blog posts, they probably have their podcasts, so that what an itty-bitty book does is it introduces somebody to an author that reader wants to know more about, get more information. It leaves a person wanting more after the meal, so to speak, instead of feeling so stuffed they can't move.
Well, I think that just what you just showed me with the numbered sentences, it's logical. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the bullet points are those, like you said, little nuggets of information so that you can easily scan it and glean it. And then if you want more, it tells you exactly where to go to get more information. And that's why I think, again, when you talk about business builder, I just love that terminology, because you really are talking about how do you use a book as a tool to build a business instead of it being about selling a bunch of books. Now, that's a question. Do you suggest to people that they sell their books or
yes,
available?
Well, there's 2 ways. So last night I was meeting with Staples, and they're doing something new now where they're having speakers come in, and I'm arranging at the group of Staples. There's 14 of them in Southern California that have this opportunity. So I was at a meeting last night, and I gave them books because I'm going to be working with them in all the different stores that have this speaker program. It's called Spotlight, and I want them. I don't want them to buy the book from me. I want to speak in all their stores. So that's the kind of person you want to give it to. But you don't want to just give it willy-nilly to somebody who's not going to make a difference. You want to give it to the decision makers. You want to give it to somebody who's going to invite you to speak, invite you on their show, that kind of thing. That's a giveaway. But somebody who wants your book, somebody was taking one of my books off of a display that I had at a workshop. And I said, excuse me, that's $10. And they say, you're not giving them away? I said, why would I give them away? That's my business. and it says on the thing $10. Because it's an itty-bitty book doesn't mean it's free. But I tell my authors, you're not going to make money selling books. You're going to make money building your business using your books. This particular person, she created a certification program to teach people how to use cannabis. And she makes $100,000 in a weekend certifying cannabis coaches. That's what I mean by building a business.
And that's a huge industry. And like the marijuana, the book that you just held up, the marijuana book, 15 ways to use that. And what a great thing, because so you have the book, and then you take the book, and she created a certification program. And so it's like, not only are you a publisher, you're still using those coaching routes.
Can't help it. Can't help it. I'm a business strategist. I can't help it. I just got off the phone with somebody earlier today, and I say, you have to do this and this and this and this and this. And she went, oh, okay. I said, because if you do that, which is where she was heading, that's for later. You got to do this first. And I can't help it. That's the way my mind works.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just thinking when I first met you, I remember, because, I think I was one of those people and said, are you that Suzy Prudden? But when I don't know you, but I've been watching you and learning from you for a couple of years, and I can see where that coach comes out and how you would help these authors to actually understand the power that they're holding in their hand with this book. Now, I do have a question related to books. How powerful, I'm an author and I'm a best-selling author. How important is it to become a best-selling author?
That's a challenging question to answer. The reason being, in my industry as an author and as a speaker, I know how to become a bestseller in today's market, which is very different than when I became a bestseller in the 70s. I learned on tour. I was on tour with my book, Spot Reducing, Suzy Prudden's Spot Reducing book. I was on tour with that book, and I was in Detroit when my editor called me, and he said, you've made it to the bestseller list. And because at that time, what happened is there were certain bookstores around the country that would monitor how many books were purchased in a given period of time. It was like 3 weeks. So I would go out on the road every time I published a book and hawk, so to speak, my book on television, radio, newspapers, magazines. I'd arrive in a city in the evening, have dinner, go to sleep, get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock. First stop would be a TV studio. Second stop would be a TV studio. Sometimes third stop would be a TV studio, more likely a radio station, and then a newspaper, then another radio station, possibly a noon TV studio. I mean, we just went go, 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 go all day, and I'd be on my way to the airport by 4 o'clock that afternoon, 5 o'clock that afternoon to get to the next city. And so we had to sell, 30, 40,000 books in a short amount of time, which meant that people had to go into the bookstore. That doesn't happen anymore. First of all, there aren't that many bookstores left, but now you can buy your way into the New York Times. It costs about $375,000. And you can set up an Amazon bestseller campaign where you just have everybody in your world buy your book on a certain day for 99 cents, and you'll make it to the bestseller list. So in our world, it's important because it's important in the world that people don't know about what goes on behind the curtain, so to speak. So yes, it's important to have a number one bestseller or a bestseller. It's important in positioning. I've got about 8 or 10 Amazon bestsellers because of books that I've been part of or books that I've written. but it's different now. It doesn't have the same, I'm telling secrets.
Well, I think that people need to understand that sometimes, like you just said, New York Times bestseller, it was a whole different
thing.
Back, I mean, if you listen to the work that went into you flying all over the country, TV, radio, go into the bookstores, do book signings, work and hope and pray that you're going to sell thousands of books so that you could get on that list. And then you just said, well, today, if you know the right people and have the money, $375,000, boom, yep, you can become a New York Times bestseller. So it doesn't have the same clout maybe, but at the same time, Amazon, it is a bestseller in the world of Amazon because they actually are counting those books every hour, yep, in those categories. And of course, it's like, I call it the Dewey Decimal System. If you remember that from back, I learned it in elementary.
Libraries, right.
But they have all the categories. And if you learn and you put your book in the right categories, nothing bugs me more than people who put their book into some random category just because they think it's easy. But if you're
it is easy, and that's a problem because they can put their book in a category where there's only 2 other books.
Yes.
And sell 10 copies and be a bestseller.
Yes.
So it's really it means something when you're introduced on stage, but it's changing. It's the whole industry has changed. Perfect example. I had a crazy idea of selling words, creating a word book. This book went to #1 in Canada and the US. Every single author has 1 word in here, plus their bio, plus their definition of their word, and their photograph. And they are all 270 of them. There's 267. We had to redo the cover because we added 3 words. And they're all bestsellers with 1 word. They can say, I'm an Amazon bestseller.
Well, that's that. And that, if you look at that, the credibility of #1, they're an author and Amazon bestseller, and they did participate, and it really did get bought. Enough copies of the book got bought in order to put it into that #1 category. And the international comes from the fact that it was #1 in both the United States and Canada.
I know that was really fun. That's our first international bestseller. So we're pleased with that.
So that's something, and again, it may be the secrets, but I believe that people need to understand so that they understand that just because it's not the same as a New York Times bestseller, it still does have value.
It does.
As an author in getting on stages, or if someone were to choose you have a book or you don't have a book. What's your opinion on that? About
if you're a speaker and you don't have a book, you will not get chosen if someone has the same topic as you do who does have a book. So a book is very important. And writing an itty-bitty book, I have a couple of people who are much too important to have an itty-bitty book. And then I had one person who was in finance, and she said, no, my topic is much too important to be titled Ittybitty. I said, okay. And then about a month ago, she wrote me, sending me an article of one of my authors in finance. And the author was featured in a very, very, very important financial magazine because of her Ittybitty book. And this person said to me, maybe I should rethink it. I said, maybe. Whatever works for you. I'm not attached. I know it's important. Ittybitty is huge. It's huge. We're going to have kiosks in airports, in Target. I mean, we're already working on that. We have our author speaking at Staples that's going to go national eventually. So, getting a Staples spotlight where they market you. You show up, do your thing, sign books, and people collect names, and now you have another market. So this is a marketing tool. This isn't to sit down and, let's get comfortable and put our feet up and read. This is an informational book that's a teaching tool as well as a marketing tool. So for the reader learns something that they can digest. For the author, they are now introduced to the reader who could become a client.
And then they just want more information. They can go to their website or go find something else. Now, I'm 100% behind you, because I really think that the concept of the Ittybitty book, you mentioned earlier, the dummy books, and those books, if you look at how popular those were, and again, they're like huge, thick books, and it's like, I can't go, number one, an Ittybitty book, how cool is it? You can put it in your purse, or a man could put it in his back pocket or into his jacket. You could read it like simply wherever, you're trying to get information, and you could learn something very rapidly, and it could help you make decisions. So that's why I just think that you're 100% onto the way we operate in the world today, because our attention span has shrunk to the point where so people want to be instantly gratified with information, so they could easily go through your book in a short amount of time.
20 minutes.
20 minutes? So
yep, 20
that's
minutes.
Almost like a TED Talk.
Yeah. We're starting Ittybitty Speakers, and we're going to be doing an Ittybitty speaking conference where each of our authors will have 15 minutes to speak. And that's all you need.
Right.
I've done a TEDx talk, and that's really all you need. And I'm finding it hard now to speak for longer. I used to speak for an hour and a half. That was the norm, an hour to an hour and a half. And I can say enough in 5 minutes now to pique my audience's interest, so that number one, they come away with information, but they also want more. And you want to leave a party when you're having the best time. So it's the same with a book. You want to leave the book wanting more book. Give me more. Give me more. Don't, enough. No, you don't want that. Give me more. And so 95% of Americans don't read. And they have the attention span of a gnat. I think somebody said to me recently that Americans have the attention span of a goldfish.
Less than a goldfish.
Less than a goldfish. Okay.
I think we're down to 8 seconds. And if you ever watch TV, remember when commercials used to be 30 seconds? Now they will make the commercials like less than 15 seconds, but the same commercial like 4 times.
Yep.
So I'm saying,
I remember commercials used to be a minute.
Yeah. Our brain, and I see it especially with children, because people give their kids cell phones, and it's really, we're changing the way we, in the way we process, and that's another conversation. But so what do you think the biggest mistakes are that people that, are making when they try to write a book today?
Too much information. Way, way, way too much information and repetition. It's like they feel that they have to fill a book. So filling a book is like 250 pages. And they just keep writing and writing and regurgitating and regurgitating. So it's just too much information. You need to be concise. You need to be quick. But it's one thing to write a novel. I read novels, and if I get a novel that's 700, 800 pages, I'm happy camper. Don't even mind carrying it in the airport, because I'm in love with the story. But informational books are not stories.
Right.
It's just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. Just give me what I need to know now so that I can get on with it and get to the next piece.
So less is more. And again,
less is more.
You've proven that over and over again with your Ittybitty book series. And I really love the fact that you're expanding that to get into the speaking arena, because more and more people, they're very interested in speaking. Everybody I talk to, they all want to know how do I become a speaker? And they all have been taught to do these signature stories and all of this. But I think what you're talking about is exactly on target with what people want. It's like, tell me what it is so that I can make a decision.
Yep.
And you don't have to do the old thing where tell them what you want them to know, then tell them again. You know, it used to be like the 5-paragraph essay concept. And we're really moving away from that type of information. So of all of the things that you've done, what would you say was your biggest failure?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you. My biggest failure was becoming homeless 8 months after being on Oprah. And I was a big deal. And I joke at Craig's and I say, I'm a big deal. But I am. I did it. I had a phenomenal career. And I had a book in 1989 called MetaFitness, which is published by Hay House. And I did the Oprah. I hired a publicist to get me on Oprah, and he did. And the show was about my work, which was really the mind-body connection. That was when I was pioneering. And I did the show, and I could not handle myself afterwards. It's a phenomenon. And I was not paying attention to my money, and I was not paying it. I didn't have a team. I was all by myself, and I basically went into debt, lost everything, and ended up homeless. And as I was waking up to the fact that I was about to lose my house and everything else, I turned to the ceiling and I said, "Thank you, God. You must really love me to give me this experience because it's going to change my life." And it did. And I became much more cognizant of the world around me instead of the world that was me. So it was a huge, huge lesson. And I needed it. That people say, God taps you on the shoulder and taps you on the shoulder to tell you you need to make a change. And if you don't listen, the taps get harder until you get hit by a 2x4. Well, I got hit by a brick house. I mean, it was very scary and horrifically shaming because I was a celebrity and I had been rich and I had been important and big deal. And now I was toast. And that was a very shame. It took me a long time to heal, to get over. I kept saying, how could I do this? How could I have failed so? But in failing, the word fail does not mean it's over. It very often means it's just beginning. And as Craig says in the boot camps that we've gone to, fail forward, you have to have failures in order to create bigger successes. It's when you don't stand up again, that's the failure. But you've got to get back up and get back in the ring, so to speak, or get back up on the horse. I'm an equestrian, so if I fell off a horse, the next thing I had to do was get back on the horse, except if I had a concussion, which happened a few times. And I'd wake up in bed wondering how I got there because I'd fallen off. But again, that was my biggest failure, and yet it was my biggest success.
Wow. So I've fallen off a few horses and literally have had footprint bruises where the horse came to check on me and stepped on me in the process. So how was it your biggest success?
Because I created a new sense of self. I had to be extremely creative to get through that. I had to be extraordinarily resilient. I had to really call upon my whole self to overcome the sense of shame that I had let everybody down, that I was this, important person who just fell flat on her face in front of the world. It wasn't like I did it in the privacy of my own home. I'm Suzy Prudden and I don't have a place to live. And so but I was also famous and I had just come off a tour. And so I had a lot of miles. So I was able to travel still. I was invited to speak all over the place. So I would, the second night, the first night that I had no home. I stayed at a friend's house. And the second night, I was in the Hoya Hyatt for 2 nights because I was speaking there. So here I am. I have no home. All my stuff is in storage. And I'm speaking at the Hyatt, and I'm staying there. 2 days later, I'm driving into Rancho La Puerta, which is a 5-star spa in Tecate, Mexico. And I'm speaking there for a week. So I'm living in Rancho La Puerta for a week. I drove in Saturday morning, not knowing where I was going to be living the following Saturday. And I kept creating opportunities like this. I spent 2 weeks in Maui teaching a seminar. Then I spent 6 weeks in the fall in Maui taking a seminar. I went to Canada to speak for a week. So I was in I stayed at a friend's house in New York City over the Christmas holidays. My son was living in New York. My sister was living in New York. I wrote a book while I was there, staying in his house. He was in California, and I had this 2-bedroom apartment in Manhattan on 2nd and 22nd with a fireplace. So I did homelessness rather well, I think. And I had some scary moments, really scary moments, but I just kept going. And I think that's the key to life. It's like you look at your situation and you say, okay, so what do I have to do to get through this? What do I have to do? And then I'd ask God, where do you want me? And I'd end up someplace, or what do you want me to do? And I'd end up doing something new, creating new work, and using my imagination and my creativity. And I never felt sorry. I just didn't realize this till now. I never felt sorry for myself. I felt embarrassed. I felt shamed, but I didn't feel sorry. It's just, it created it allowed me to bring out a deeper part of me, I think, and to let go of judgment. That was a big piece. I was very judgmental.
Wow. One thing that listening to you, we can talk about publishing, we can talk about all these different things, but what you said about how it helped you to really connect, with your divine, with God, and then to really get to see who you were, and that creativity and resilience about, even though technically you were homeless, you always had a place to stay and you kept coming up with something. So it's like Suzy Prudden manifester.
That's true.
Comes.
And a lot of magic happened for me. I mean, it was funny. I had in the early 80s, I had been to Studio 54 with a friend of mine, and I had fallen and hurt myself. And he was a lawyer, so he immediately sued them, but nothing ever happened. I never followed through. I did actually really hurt myself. And so that was in 83. So now it's 1990. I haven't spoken to this person in easily 6 years, 5 years. Nothing happened with this suit. I had forgotten about it. And I was living in Del Mar. I had rented a room there. Another friend of mine had rented a room, and we were working on a book. We were doing seminars, and I was coaching people. Here I am coaching people on how to have perfect lives, and mine's a mess. And I get a phone call, and this gentleman said, "Do you remember that lawsuit that we had with Studio 54?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, it just came through, and you're going to receive $30,000. Now, out of nowhere, poof. And it was at a time when I was really I was going to have to leave the room because I couldn't afford it anymore, and things out of nowhere. And that's how the universe works. If you have trust and you believe that you're going to be okay, you will be okay. Things may get dicey, but you will be okay. And things get dicey today. Sometimes somebody who's going to write a book then falls through, and the money that I was going to receive, I don't receive. And it's like, okay, so how are we going to get through this month? And that still happens. So, once you make it, it isn't made, so to speak. It's like, okay, so now what do I have to do? Now what do I have to do? The world keeps going. Your work keeps going. You're not done till you're done.
What's really interesting is that you've said it, you just keep moving forward. So you've got the Ittybitty book publishing company. So what's next? What are you working on now? Because you said that you're expanding some of your publishing services. So can you tell me more about that?
Well, we did create Legacy Press, and that's for the people who came to me and said, Suzy, I don't want to do an itty-bitty book. I have this important story. And my sister doesn't like story, who's my business partner. So I said, okay, you stay with Ittybitty and keep doing what you're doing. I'll just create this over here on the side, Legacy Press. We have about 4 or 5 Legacy Press books in the works right now. I think we have one that's been published, one that's about to be published, and we have 3 more that are being worked on. And I have a new editor for that part of the business. And then people kept saying to me, this is funny, people kept saying to me, I want to write a children's book. I want to write a children's book. And I said, we don't do children's books. But my assistant has been helping another publisher do children's books. So I said to her, do you want to add children's books to Ittybitty? Would you do them since you know how? She said, sure. So I had to convince my sister. And she didn't want to do children's books. And she said to me, they don't make any money. I said, no books make money. It's what you do with the book that makes the money. So we're not going to make money on the back end of the book anyway. So why don't we just make money on the front end and let the person who has the book take care of making money the way they need to make money using the book. And she has a little dog. I mean, a little dog. They have big dogs in the house. She lives with her daughter and son-in-law. They have big dogs, but they have this tiny little dog she loves this little dog. His name is Little Dog. And so I thought, why don't we call the children's line Little Dog Press? And she said, I like that. I said, so we now have Little Dog Press, and I think we're working on 2 children's books right now. These are very new. And then we have someone who came to me with a beautiful cookbook. Boy, I wanted this book. And so I thought, okay, we'll create a cookbook line. And so now we have a cookbook line. And then now Staples has come along, and we're going to do Staples tours with speakers. And then we're going to do it also in, where is it? Apple. Apple has studio spaces where you can have speakers speak. These are very important because once you have an audience, then you can really market who you are, what you've got. And then I thought, okay, so people like short talks. Why don't I have Ittybitty conference and we start with 1 day, possibly 2 days of 15-minute talks the way they do TED Talks. I've done a TED Talk. It's very easy. You have to be very, very succinct, and you have to be you can't go rambling. And so we're going to start that in 2020. We'll have Ittybitty conferences where the authors will have an opportunity to do a 15-minute talk on their topic.
Wow. So it's so amazing to me that it's all publishing, but then it's branching out to the actual things. One of the main reasons why people become authors is because they'd like to speak.
Right.
So it's just this natural progression and growth. And I love that Little Dog Press and the Legacy Press, because those are when authors come, that is one of the reasons why they come, is they want to leave a legacy. And then, of course, the children's books. It's interesting because my daughter, she's written several children's books. And when I was growing up, my mom used to tell me these stories all the time. She'd make up these stories, and then she would actually draw, different cartoons and stuff to go with the stories that she told. So I'm actually sitting on some children's stories and books with illustrations that my late mother left behind, because that was something that she used to do. So that's really interesting to me, how the universe is just kind of saying, okay, Suzy, let's do this. And then you're going, okay.
That happens. And it's when I get an idea, I act. And I think if anything that I've said today, that's the most important. It's when you get an idea, act on it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it's not working, if you don't act on it. It's like if you want something, ask for it. It's no before you ask, so you're not losing anything. People are afraid to ask. I ask for things all the time. I don't like no, but I don't believe no. I think no is not now. And so, when I had my own television show in New York, she just drops that on the floor. I have a funny thing. I was once, my favorite question I've ever been asked was, are you a pathological liar? Yeah. And so I said, why do you ask that? And she said, nobody has a life like yours. I was talking to a friend of my cousin's at a party. And she said, nobody has a life like that. I said, I do. She said, that's the kind of stuff that movies are about. I said, well, that's my life. I mean, everything I've said is my life. So to get back to what I just dropped, so when I had my own show in New York, I had my own show on NBC. I was on a show called The Prime of Your Life. I was the fitness expert on a show for the elderly, of which I am now. And but I was in my 30s, and I was the fitness expert. I had 7 minutes on live television every Sunday. That's huge. And then it got down to 5 minutes, and I had a wonderful producer. And I would call him every week. Hi, Larry, it's Suzy. Hi, Suzy. Larry, I have an idea. Would you be interested in? And I just kept coming up with ideas and calling him. And he said, now that's not going to work for us right now, but thank you for asking, and please keep calling. So I did. And one day Larry called me. And he said, Suzy, we have an idea for a show and wanted to know if you'd be interested in it. It was called Suzy Prudden's Fit for Fun. And it was a talk show. It ran for 10 days before the Today Show from, I don't know when the Today Show started, 7 o'clock. So it was from 6:30 to 7. It was my own talk show. And it's Suzy Prudden's Fit for Fun. It's archived someplace. And then I had another show, Tip Top with Suzy Prudden, which was with Nickelodeon. And so, but I kept asking. And people, when people get a no, they think they have to stop asking. No, you don't have to stop asking. Keep asking. That's what I do. And I guess that's why I am successful. I get an idea and I do it.
Take action. I think that you're absolutely right, Suzy. Right there. I mean, you said a lot of gold nuggets in this interview, but right there, people should go back and re-listen to the last 5 minutes of what you were talking about, because most people, if they hit a slight roadblock or a bump in the road, they stop and they go, oh, it wasn't meant to be. But Suzy Prudden says, oh, I'll just ask again. New idea. And how wonderful is that? That's such a prime example of the way media does work. Is a lot of times you create a relationship with someone and you say, hey, I've got this idea. What do you think? And they go, well, it doesn't quite work for us right now, but thank you. Keep sharing.
Yep.
And most people don't keep sharing.
Right.
They go on to something else and they don't come back with the next idea. And that's where you made all the difference in the world. And it got you 2 shows. I mean, right before the Today Show on NBC.
I know.
And then on Nickelodeon. I mean, that's major stuff. I mean, just in general, not only was it on national, but New York is the #1 market in the whole country.
Yep, it was my briar patch. You know the it's Little Brer Rabbit and Brer Bear and Brer Fox. It was I can't remember the name of it, but Brer Rabbit was caught by Brer Fox and Brer Bear, and Brer Rabbit is saying, you can do anything to me. You can throw me around. You can beat me up, because they were going to eat him. You can punch me. You can stab me. But please, please, please don't throw me in the briar patch. And Brer Bear and Brer Fox are kind of wondering, what is Brer Rabbit talking about? We can punch him, but don't throw him in. Well, we better throw him in the briar patch if that's where he doesn't want to go. Well, the briar patch is where Brer Rabbit grew up. So when we think about New York, I always call it my briar patch, because for a lot of people, New York is way too big and way too complicated, but it's my briar patch. New York is New York is an easy city. And I now live in California, Los Angeles. It's not as easy in California and Los Angeles as it was for me in New York City. So it's just a different world. And
New York, at least you could walk.
Yeah, you can walk everywhere. And it's interesting, because when I go back and visit, we have our cars that we live in. In New York, they have their bubbles that they live in. Like two people will be walking down the street, and you can almost see the bubble around them. They're conversing. Nothing else exists around them. The other interesting thing about New York that is different than Los Angeles, New York has a rhythm like this. You don't even have to move your feet. You get carried along. That's the rhythm. You just work into the rhythm in New York. Los Angeles doesn't have a rhythm. So the first 3 years that I lived here, I'm going, where's the rhythm? Where's the rhythm? I can't get the rhythm. And then I went, oh, I have to create my own. It's a different world. So you have to create your own rhythm in Los Angeles, which I guess I've done very well now.
Well, all I know, Suzy, is that everything that you've done really has led you to this point in time where you can offer all these authors these massive opportunities, but whether it's the little itty-bitty book, the amazing little bitty book, or the legacy press, or the little dog press for the children's stories, or the speaking through Staples. I mean, it's just this magnificent layer of opportunity that you're giving people. So before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, what is the best way for people to reach out to you?
Thank you. My website is www.Ittybitty, publishing.com. And there is a window there that you can just put your name, your phone number, your email, and say, contact me, and we will definitely contact you. I am known for follow-up. So it's ittybittypublishing.com. And I hope that those of you who are thinking about writing a book and having a speaking career will get in touch with me, because I can make it happen.
That is exactly the words that every one of our listeners wanted to hear, Suzy, is that you can make it happen for them. And let me say that I can honestly say that of all the people that I've talked to, and I talked to a lot of people, I've done over 500 podcasts in the last couple of years, you are somebody who honestly can make it happen. Make it happen at that big level, not this little hometown level, but Suzy Prudden can make it happen at the global level, and she's proven it time and time again. So thank you so much for allowing me to interview you, because it's really an honor to get to talk to you at this level.
Thank you.
So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I have one quick thing to add.
Sure.
If your book, and I'm talking directly now to the audience, if your book isn't right for us, I will tell you, because I don't take every single book. Yes, I get paid to publish your books, but it's always the time when I need the money the most that someone calls me with a book that I know won't work. So, and I have to say no to that person. So don't call me just because you have a sky in the pie or pie in the sky idea and think, oh, she'll take it because I'm going to pay her. No, I will really work with you to make it what you want it to be, so that you can make money from it and not just have it sit on the shelf.
And that's really a huge thing. And I think it's really important. And you mentioned that there was that woman who said, oh, I don't think Ittybitty book is
Yes,
good
that's
enough for my brain. The truth is that if you look at it from a different perspective, take your ego out of it.
that's the piece.
At the fact that just like the dummies books, people clamor for dummy books. The Ittybitty books, like what Suzy was saying earlier, it is a brand that you can literally latch onto and become a superstar, borrowing Suzy Prudden's credibility and authority as a publisher and as an expert. So that's how I see I'm going, man, Ittybitty books, you can borrow Suzy Prudden's superstardom just borrow that credibility and that authority. And that's what you need to look at sometimes is it isn't about the name of the book or anything, but it's about who are you connecting yourself to in the world. And, I'm thinking to myself, wow, if you can connect yourself to Suzy Prudden and your expertise and your knowledge that you bring to the table, I mean, oh my goodness.
Thank you.
About power. So thank you so much, Suzy.
Thank you. It's been really fun.
Okay, thanks. Everyone, this is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to Women Innovators with Tammy Patzer. To learn more, please go to womeninnovatorsradio.com. And please do subscribe and share to spread the big messages and big missions to change the world.